The laugh in the arena. The arena was alive with noise, cheers, roars, and laughter filled the air. Alien spectators from dozens of planets had come to see the fight. They weren't here for a challenge. No, they came for a joke. In the center of the arena stood Commander Zalara, the undefeated champion of Arxil Prime. 7 feet tall, silver-blue skin that shimmered under the lights. Armor like polished stone, covering her strong body. Her eyes glowed red as she raised her arms to the crowd. They screamed her name like she was a goddess. Across from her stood a human, a man. He was not tall. He wore no armor. Just a plain black sleeveless shirt, cargo pants, and wrapped hands. Around his waist hung a strange weapon, 2 wooden sticks tied with a chain. "Jax," the announcer's voice echoed. "Warriors of the galaxy, prepare, the human versus the champion of Arxil." The crowd laughed again. Zalara looked at Jax, smirking. "Is that what you brought to fight me, sticks and string?" She turned to the crowd and raised her hands again. "Should I break him in 1 hit or 2? The crowd chanted, "1, 1, 1. Jax didn't speak. He didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on hers, calm and sharp. His fingers tapped the nunchucks gently, like he was waking them up. The gong rang. Zalara charged like a beast, fast and brutal. She leaped into the air and slammed her metal fist down at Jax's head, but Jax wasn't there anymore. He had slipped to the side like water. She hit the ground with a loud boom, cracking the stone beneath her. Before she could lift her head, something hit her face, fast, hard crack. It was one of Jax's nunchucks, spinning so fast it was almost invisible. Her head jerked back. She stumbled, stunned. Crack! Another hit, this time to her side. Her balance broke. She stepped back. The crowd went quiet. Jax still hadn't said a word. He flipped the nunchucks in his hands with perfect rhythm. His body stayed low, focused, ready. Zalara growled. Her pride was hurt. She launched forward again, this time faster. Her fists came in from both sides like a hammer. Jax ducked, slid under. His nunchucks whipped around her arm and pulled. Her punch missed. Her body spun. Then came 3 strikes. Pop, crack, snap. To her shoulder, elbow, and ribs. Zalara screamed. Pieces of her armor flew off like broken glass. She jumped back, breathing heavy. Her face was red with rage and shame. "You fight like a child," she spat. Jax finally spoke. His voice was calm, cold. "You talk too much." The crowd didn't laugh this time. He stepped forward slowly. Each move was smooth, practiced, sharp. His eyes never left hers. He swung the nunchucks in a slow circle, like a storm was coming. Zalara tried to smile, but fear was rising inside her. She activated her energy shield. A bright field of light wrapped around her body. Jax didn't care. He rushed in. His nunchucks moved like lightning. Snap, crack, whack, striking the weak points of the shield. The light flickered, faded. One last blow to the center of her chest. And the shield shattered. Zalara screamed again, this time in pain. She fell to one knee, her breath heavy. Her chest plate was cracked wide open. Her arms hung loose. Her pride, broken. The crowd was silent. No one laughed now. Jax stood tall, his weapon still spinning. He said nothing more. Commander Zalara, the undefeated champion, had been broken, piece by a man with sticks. And it wasn't even close. Not so fragile now. The medical unit was silent. Commander Zalara sat on the edge of a steel bench, her cracked armor laid out on a table beside her, bent, split, and blackened in places. Her face was bruised, her pride shattered. She stared at her hands, not because they hurt, but because for the first time in years, they had failed her. A door hissed open behind her. "You lost to a human," said a deep voice. It belonged to General Kraith, her battle mentor and the highest-ranking soldier on Arxil Prime. His face was hidden behind a red visor, but his disappointment filled the room like poison. Solara didn't look up. "He wasn't just a human," she whispered. "He moved like nothing I've ever seen." "Don't make excuses," Kraith snapped. "You had weapons, shields, flight systems. He had wood and chain." Solara clenched her fists. Those sticks felt like thunder. Meanwhile, Jax stood alone in the training ring below the arena. Not the grand battlefield, just a quiet, empty hall made of stone and dust. He practiced the same motions over and over like he had done 1,000 times before. Spin. Catch. Strike. Step. Breathe. A small alien girl watched from the shadows. Green skin, wide eyes. No more than 10 years old in human terms. "You're the one who beat Solara," she said softly. Jax didn't stop. "She beat herself." The girl tilted her head. "How?" Jax stopped spinning. "Pride." Across the city, word spread fast. The human broke the champion. The news was viral. Screens replayed the fight. Memes flooded alien networks. Art began to appear, some praising Jax, others mocking Solara. The public loved it, but the royal family did not. Inside the royal fortress, Queen Virelia watched the footage with icy silence. Her daughter humiliated, her champion broken. Her eyes narrowed. "This human must be brought to me," she said. Alive. Back in the underbelly of the arena, Jax sat with his back against a wall, sipping thick blue water from a tin cup. His fingers still tapped the nunchucks in rhythm. A voice echoed down the corridor. "You fight like an animal, but speak like a monk." Jax looked up. Another alien approached. Tall, lean, with burnt orange skin and black eyes that looked like deep holes. He wore no armor, only a cloth robe. "Who are you?" Jax asked. The alien bowed slightly. "I am Viel. I watched your fight. I studied the old ways." "The old ways?" Viel nodded. "Before machines, before lasers, when warriors earned victory, with breath, blood, and discipline." Jax raised an eyebrow. "So why are you here?" "To warn you. You embarrassed royalty. And on this planet that is a crime greater than murder." Jax gave a dry chuckle. "Let them come." Viel stepped closer. "They will. And they won't come to fight fair. They will come to erase you." Later that night, as 2 moons rose above the arena towers, shadow ships moved silently through the clouds. Black vessels, no lights, no sounds. They were not here for a fight. They were here for a capture. Inside one of the ships, an elite unit of alien assassins, the Red Talons, prepared their gear. Silent communication only. Blades, tranquilizers, restraints. They weren't sent to kill Jax. They were sent to deliver him to the Queen. But Jax was already gone. In the dark sewers beneath Arxel Prime, Viel guided Jax through twisting tunnels. The air was thick. Pipes hissed. Rats the size of dogs scurried by. "Why help me?" Jax asked. Viel looked ahead. "Because you've become something dangerous, not just to the royals, but to the people's belief. They saw you, they felt you, and they realized." He turned and stared into Jax's eyes. "Maybe humans aren't weak after all." Above them, Red Talons entered the training hall. But it was empty. Only one message had been scratched into the wall. "You mocked the sticks. Now you fear them." The old ways before Jax was a warrior feared by aliens. He was just a quiet boy with a scar under his eye and a secret too heavy for his age. Years ago, on a forgotten part of Earth, deep in the shadow of broken skyscrapers and dead satellites, Jax trained in an abandoned subway tunnel. The world above had changed. War had stolen cities. Greed had stolen peace. But down below, something ancient still lived. The dojo of silence. No signs, no teachers shouting, no machines. Only silence, discipline, and the old ways. Jax's master, a wrinkled monk named Kaoru, never praised, never smiled, but his eyes were sharp as blades. "Why do you want to fight, boy?" the master asked one cold morning as steam rose from their breath. Jack stood barefoot on broken stone. "Because they think we're weak." Kaoru nodded. "Let them think. That is your greatest weapon." Back in the present, the alien monk Vial watched Jax train in the Undercity. Same rhythm, same movements. Not for show, not for power, for truth. "Your hands move like fire," Vial said quietly. "But your heart? Is it calm?" Jax didn't answer. He focused, breathed. Vial stepped forward. "The red talons will return, with more numbers. The queen will not stop. She cannot allow a human to rise." Jax caught the nunchucks mid-air and looked at him. "Then I'll make her fall." Meanwhile, far above the Undercity, the queen of Arxel stared into a pool of living liquid, a device used for remote vision. In the reflection, she didn't see a planet. She saw Earth. "Humans," she muttered, her voice like ice cracking. Beside her stood her top advisor, a shadow-faced being, known only as Varn. "You fear him?" Varn asked. "I do not fear," she said sharply. "I study, and what I see is not one man. I see a story, a virus, one that spreads faster than fire." Varn tilted his head. "Then burn the source." The queen smiled. "No, not yet. Let's see what happens when we remind him who truly rules the stars." In a dark room lit only by blue candles, Solara stood alone. Her bruises had faded, but not the sting of defeat. She watched footage of the fight again. 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 Each time Jax dodged, spun, struck. Her anger grew. But deep inside that anger, something else was growing: curiosity. That night, Vale took Jax deeper underground, through a hidden chamber sealed by ancient symbols. "This place," Vale said, "was built by the first warriors of Arxil, before the royals, before the machines, back when skill was sacred." Jax looked around. Carvings of fighters using staffs, chains, fists. None of them wore armor. All of them bled. Vale placed a small orb on the ground. It glowed, and the room responded. A hidden door opened. Inside were weapons. Hundreds. Most were rusted, forgotten, but one glowed faint gold. 2 rods tied by chain. Ancient nunchucks. "These belong to a human," Vile whispered. "A warrior who once united Arxil tribes before they were enslaved by the royal bloodline. His name was Daen. No alien could match his flow. But history erased him." Jack stepped forward and lifted the weapon. It felt familiar, not because it was like his, but because it was his past. Flashback again. Young Jack stood bleeding, knees shaking. A gang of masked raiders had ambushed the tunnel dojo. His master was down. The others fled. But Jack stood over Kaoru's body, clutching his sticks. "I'm scared," he whispered. Kaoru, with blood in his mouth, smiled for the first time. "Good. Fear sharpens the soul." Jax had fought that day, not because he was strong, but because he was the last one left. Back in the sacred chamber, Vial spoke gently. "You do not fight like a human anymore. You fight like a truth." Jax looked at the golden nunchucks. "Let the queen send armies, let her send fire, I will teach them the old ways." Up above, the queen's fleet began to move. A planet-wide alert was sent. "All units. The human named Jax is now a galactic threat. Eliminate on sight." But deep in the tunnels of the old city, Jax was already preparing. Not to run, to rise. Armor. No more. The sky above Arxil turned red, not with fire, but with fear. The Queen's command had gone out to every corner of the planet. Billboards changed, drones broadcast her voice. Everyone saw the words, "The human is a threat to order. Surrender him or suffer." Jax's face was everywhere, but no one could find him. Because Jax was no longer hiding in the dark. He was walking straight into it. Deep beneath the royal fortress, in a secret weapons vault, a familiar figure walked barefoot across steel floors. Jax, shirtless, calm. His old nunchucks were tied at his side, but in his hand. The golden ones, the ancient weapon of Dane, the forgotten human hero of Arxel's past. Target entering perimeter, a guard whispered into his comm. Jax heard him, didn't stop. The guards activated power armor, 8 feet tall, plasma rifles, locked, red lights blinked, systems online. "Kneel," said the lead guard. "You're under the Queen's command." Jax didn't even blink. He took a breath. Then the lights went out. In the blackness, only one sound echoed. Whoosh, crack, thud, then another. Snap, pop, slam. One by one, the armored guards fell. And when the emergency lights flickered back on, Jack stood in the middle, unharmed. The golden nunchucks dripped with sparks. The air smelled of burnt circuits and fear. One guard crawled backward, helmet half cracked. What are you?" Jax looked down at him. "I'm the reminder. You forgot." Up in the royal tower, Zalara stood in her private chamber, watching it all unfold on the screens. Her chest plate, once rebuilt after her defeat, now sat untouched on the table. She stared at it. Her fingers traced the crack Jax had made weeks ago. That scar wasn't just on her armor. It was inside her. She remembered how his weapon danced, like wind and lightning, how he moved without anger, yet struck like judgment. No rage, no fear, just purpose. And for the first time in her life, Zalara didn't know what she stood for anymore. Back in the vault, Jax moved through steel corridors. Guards kept coming, faster, heavier, drones, mechs, sonic grenades. None of it mattered. He didn't fight harder, he fought smarter, using walls, shadows, the rhythm of movement. Like every motion was part of an invisible song only he could hear. His feet barely touched the ground. His weapon sang louder with each blow. Precision, flow, no wasted movement. Then, as he entered the final chamber, someone waited for him. It wasn't a guard. It wasn't an assassin. It was Zalara, unarmed, wearing simple clothing. No armor. Jax stopped. She stepped forward. "You came for the Queen?" Jax nodded slowly. "I won't stop you," she said, voice quiet. "But I need to know. How did you beat me?" Jax's eyes narrowed. "You wore too much armor." Zalara laughed, a soft, real laugh. "I wasn't talking about metal." Jax stared for a moment, then gently placed the golden nunchucks back at his side. "I don't fight people. I break illusions. Yours was that you were invincible." She looked down. Her voice cracked. "And now I feel more broken than ever." A long pause. Then Jax said something that caught her off guard. "Good. Because only the broken can be rebuilt." But their moment ended with a deep boom from above. The Queen had activated the Citadel's final defense, a machine designed to erase threats using pure gravity force. The walls began to shake. The floor bent. Zalara staggered. Jax grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a support beam just as the ceiling collapsed. Outside the chamber, Queen Virilia watched through a screen. She saw her daughter standing beside the human, not fighting him. Standing, with him. Her face darkened. "Begin the purge," she whispered. A glowing red button blinked beside her throne. Underground, a siren screamed as the purge sequence began. Zalara looked at Jax, breathing hard. "There's a tunnel. Behind the chamber. It leads out. You can escape." Jax shook his head. "You're coming too." She blinked. "You still trust me?" "I trust truth. And right now, you're the only one speaking it." Together, they ran through the collapsing hallway. Fire burst from the walls. Support beams crashed around them. But step by step, breath by breath, they moved as one. At the last second, they dove through a broken vent and tumbled into the ancient sewer path below the palace. Alive. Together. Above them, the royal fortress. began to fall, and so did the illusion of alien dominance, because no one could hide the truth anymore. The human who shattered armor was now shattering hearts too. The queen's rage. The queen did not scream. She did not curse. She did not throw her golden goblet across the throne room, though it trembled in her hand. She simply stared at the hologram before her, an image frozen in time. Jax and Zalara, side by side, fleeing through the flames of her collapsing fortress, a human and her own daughter, together. "You saw it?" she asked coldly. Varn, her advisor, nodded. "The purge failed. The Red Talons are dead. The vault is destroyed, and your daughter is no longer loyal." There was silence. Then came the sound of metal bending. The queen's fingers crushed the goblet in her palm like paper. Then let fire do what blood could not. Down in the sewer tunnels, Jax and Zalara moved quickly. Their clothes were torn, ash clung to their faces, but they were alive. Zalara winced as she walked, her leg bruised from the fall. Jax noticed but said nothing. He just slowed his pace. A warrior's kindness, silent, unspoken, real. The tunnels were endless. Water dripped. Old graffiti glowed faintly from a time when rebels still dared to speak. Zalara suddenly stopped. "You could have left me back there." Jax didn't stop. "You would have done the same." She gave a bitter laugh. "No, not before today." They rested inside an old maintenance chamber, half-flooded, lit by a dying lantern. Jax sat cross-legged, his weapon in his lap. Zalara leaned against the wall, watching him. "You're not like any human I've studied," she said. "Most come begging for mercy or power. You came with 2 sticks and a heartbeat." Jax opened his eyes. "I didn't come to prove humans are strong," he said. "I came to remind them you're not gods." Meanwhile, the Queen's orders echoed through every royal base on Arxil. Find the human. Kill the traitor. Level every sector they touch. The sky filled with warships. Cities went into lockdown. For the first time in centuries, the Empire hunted one man like he was a disease. Back in the tunnels, Zalara stared at the ancient map carved into the wall. "There's a resistance cell not far from here," she whispered. "They're small, hidden, but they hate my mother more than anyone." Jax raised a brow. "You're telling me rebels might help a royal?" Zalara looked at him, eyes fierce. "They don't have to help me. They'll help you." Above the city, the Queen stood on her private war platform. Her soldiers gathered in rows, her voice was cold thunder. "This human is not your hero. He is your undoing. And my daughter is no longer of royal blood. She is a stain." Zalara's royal crest was torn from all flags, her name erased from history texts. She was now in exile. But she didn't know. Yet, Jax and Zalara climbed through a vent into the abandoned ruins of an old rebel outpost. The moment they entered, weapons were raised. Dozens of rebels surrounded them, aliens in worn-out armor, eyes sharp with distrust. The leader, a scarred female with one robotic arm, stepped forward. "That's the Queen's dog beside you." Zalara didn't flinch. "I'm not hers anymore." The woman snarled. "Then prove it." Jax stepped forward. "She saved my life." The rebels looked at each other, unsure. Then the leader raised her hand. "Let them speak, but if you lie..." She pointed her gun at Zalara's chest. "You die first." In a candle-lit room surrounded by rebels, Jax told them everything. The fights, the Queen's purge, the weapons vault, the escape. Then he paused and said the line that changed the air in the room. "You don't need me to start a revolution. You just need someone to remind you it's possible." Silence. Then the rebel leader smiled. "You sound like Diane." Zalara looked confused. "Who?" The leader pointed to the golden nunchucks on Jax's side. "The last human to scare an empire. The first to teach aliens how to fight like wind and fire." Jax didn't reply, but he knew. He was carrying more than a weapon. He was carrying a legacy. As they rested in the rebel camp, Solara found a quiet moment. She walked to Jax and sat beside him. For a while, they said nothing. Then she asked, "When this ends, what will you do?" Jax looked up at the stars through a crack in the ceiling. "I'll finally breathe." Solara smiled faintly. "I hope I get to breathe too." But above them, something terrible was coming. The Queen had activated the Skyforge, a floating weapon station capable of melting entire cities. Its first target, the rebel hideout. The human weapon above the city, the Skyforge floated like a cursed moon, black metal miles wide, glowing with red energy veins. Inside it, the Queen stood silent, her cape floating gently in artificial gravity. On the screen, before her, the rebel hideout's coordinates blinked. "Fire on my mark," she said. No trial, no warning, no mercy. Just pure destruction. Underground, Jax jolted awake. He didn't know why, but his heart raced like thunder. His body felt heat. His skin felt air tightening. Something was coming. Something wrong. He ran out of the room and looked at the night sky through a metal hatch. Then he saw it. The red glow in the clouds, the hum of charged air, the silence of death before it speaks. "Move! Move now!" Jax roared. Solara ran to him. "What is it?" He didn't answer. He just grabbed her hand and pulled. Rebels scattered. Some grabbed weapons, others children, but it was too late. The sky screamed. A red beam shot down like the finger of a god. It hit the center of the hideout with a sound that didn't belong on any planet. A sound like space tearing open. Everything shook. Stone cracked. Fire exploded. Beams collapsed. Bodies flew. And in the middle of it all, Jax turned back. Not to fight, to save. A young rebel girl, no more than 10, was trapped under a support beam. Fire surrounded her. Jax ran straight into the flames. Solara screamed, "No," but he was already gone. He lifted the beam with a roar, his arms shaking. Metal burned his skin. The girl cried. Jax looked into her eyes and whispered, "Close them." She did, and then he ran, carrying her through fire, through smoke, through death. When he came out, his skin was charred, his arms bloody. But the girl was safe. And the rebels had seen it all. One of them whispered, "He's not a man." Another said, "He's a weapon." And from that day forward, Jax was no longer called the human. He was called the Flamewalker. In a hidden bunker, the HFY remaining rebels gathered. Only a few dozen survived, burned, bleeding, broken. Solara stood over a table, breathing hard. "We can't run anymore," she said. "We strike now, or we vanish forever." They looked at her. "Your mother will send more," one rebel muttered. "Drones, ships, warlords." Solara stepped forward. "Let her." Then she looked at Jax sitting on the floor, wrapping his burnt arm in cloth. "You still have fight left in you?" she asked. He looked up, tired but calm. "Only one fight matters now." That night they planned. Jax would lead a team through the underpath of the Skyforge, an ancient waste tunnel only known to one forgotten engineer who once defected. Solara would hack the central tower from within and disable the shields. The rebels? They'd strike from below with everything they had left. No backup, no escape. One shot. One night. One war. The next morning, Jax stood before the rebels, his body wrapped in cloth, his hands raw, his weapon, golden nunchucks, hung at his side, like they were alive. He looked at them and said, "We are not here to be remembered. We are here to remind them. They think fear is power. Show them what courage looks like when it's bleeding." And the rebels cheered like thunder. Above them, the Queen was calm. "The Flamewalker," she said with a small smile. "Let's see how bright he burns when I snuff the air." But even her generals noticed something strange. Her voice was tighter. Her hands clutched the throne too hard. Because deep down, she had doubts. Not in her army, not in her tech, but in something far older. In the spirit of a human who would not kneel. Inside the Skyforge, alarms blared. The rebel team had breached the lower gates. Solara split off from Jax. They exchanged one last look. Not a goodbye. A promise. Then they disappeared into shadow. Inside, the forge's core, Jax fought like a ghost with fire in his fists. Guards came in waves. He dropped them one by one. His nunchucks cracked armor, snapped bones, shattered illusions. And then, he reached the pulse core. At the same time, Solara reached the control room, but a surprise waited. The queen was already there. "You came home, daughter," she said coldly. Solara stood firm. This was never home, it was a cage. The queen raised a blade. Then die outside it. Their battle began. Mother versus daughter. Royalty versus rebellion. Metal versus heart. And this time, Solara did not lose. She fought with speed and rage. She used the techniques she learned watching Jax. She moved with freedom. In the end, the queen fell back, wounded. "You've turned into a human," she spat. Solara pressed the override key and smiled. "No, I've turned into something you can't control," and she dropped the shields. Jax, hearing the signal, stood before the pulse core. It glowed like the sun, dangerous and alive. He placed the final charge, but before leaving, he whispered a quiet prayer, not for victory, for peace. Round 2 was never about the arena. The countdown had begun. In the heart of the Skyforge, the self-destruct charges blinked red. 5 minutes. That's how long they had to end a war, escape death, or become legends. But Jax wasn't running. Not yet. He stood in the forge's central chamber, surrounded by firelight and rising steam. Behind him, the pulse core, humming louder than thunder. In front of him, the queen's final guard. Her elite warriors, shaped like nightmares in armor. 6 of them, all taller than Jax, all born for one purpose: kill anything that threatens the throne. The lead guard stepped forward. His voice was like metal scraping stone. "You dishonored the queen. You humiliated her daughter. You brought war to our world." Jax said nothing. The guard raised his blade. "For that, we erase you." They attacked all at once. 6 weapons. 6 warriors. 6 death strikes. But Jax didn't move like a soldier. He moved like a storm set free. Crack, thud, snap. His golden nunchucks spun with perfect rhythm. They danced around blades, shattered helmets, broke armor at its weakest joints. He didn't aim to kill, he aimed to end. Every strike told a story. Every motion whispered, "You mocked us. You ruled us. You thought we were soft. Now, feel what we carry." One by one the guards fell, broken, groaning, stunned, until only Jax remained standing. But his breathing was heavy. Blood dripped from his side. His shoulder was slashed. His hand trembled. He was human. And humans break, but they don't stop. Across the station, Solara limped through smoking corridors. She had fought her mother and lived, but barely. Sparks flew around her. The station groaned like a dying beast. Suddenly, her comm crackled. Jax's voice, calm, rough. "Charges are set. I need a way out." Solara smiled despite the pain. "Follow the eastern hall, I'll open a launch pod." "You sure? Just hurry. I want to see your stupid face again before we blow this thing up." The queen, bleeding but alive, crawled through the ruins of the control room. She saw her empire cracking. She saw flames where her banners once flew, and for the first time in her life, she saw fear in her own eyes. "They'll never follow a human," she whispered. But even she knew. They already were. As Jax reached the launch corridor, he heard a voice. A girl's voice, weak, crying. He turned. Through a shattered window, he saw a small alien child trapped behind falling beams, fire creeping close. The countdown was at 120. He could run, escape, survive, or he could do what he always did. Turn back. Solara stared at the launchpad timer. Where is he? She slammed the console. Come on, Jax. Inside the chamber, Jax lifted the beam with burning arms. His skin tore, his legs buckled, but he got the girl out. She held his hand and cried. He smiled at her. Don't be afraid, we already won. 45. He ran. He didn't limp. He didn't scream. He just ran. And as the chamber exploded behind him, Jax dove into the launch pod just as the hatch closed. Boom! The Skyforge lit up the sky like a second. Sonnet collapsed in on itself, a giant metal flower folding under its own fire. From far below, people, rebels, workers, even soldiers, watched in silence. Then one of them raised a hand, then another, until the sky was filled with raised fists, not for war, for change. Inside the falling escape pod, Solara lay beside Jax, clutching her bleeding arm. She looked at him, burnt, bruised, barely conscious. You did it, she whispered. Jax's eyes stayed closed. We did it. When they landed in the jungle beyond the capital, the world was quiet, not silent from death, silent from what came next. In the following days, the empire collapsed. Royal banners were torn, slave pits were emptied, rebel flags rose, a new council was formed, alien, races together, and at the center of it, a statue stood, not of a king, not of a god, but of a man in simple cloth holding 2 wooden sticks tied with chain. The plaque read, Jax, the human weapon. He didn't come to conquer. He came to remind us that we could fight. Solara now wore no armor, no crown. She walked among her people, not above them. She never claimed the throne again. She chose something harder, service. As for Jax, some say he returned to Earth, some say he died in the flames. But the rebels, they say, he's still out there in every small rebellion, in every quiet act of courage, not just a warrior, a whisper in the fire.